Hey there, I am Barb Higgins, and this is 1,000 Tiny Steps. In this podcast, I share my stories of love, loss, triumph, and tragedy as I continue to retrace my steps and ponder what led to the death of my daughter Molly. By doing so, I hope to not only help myself, but to bring purpose and possibility to those who listen. If you are ready to laugh, cry, shake your head in disbelief, then tie, buckle, lace up, or slip on your shoes, and join me as we begin our 1,000 Tiny Steps.
Hey everybody, Barb Higgins here, welcoming you back to my season of guests. So if you've been listening the past few weeks, you know that even the most wonderful people have terrible stories or sides of themselves that they're not proud of, or tragic things that have happened to them. And being the mother of a dead child, I received lots of requests from angel moms, I like to say. And so you will hear from a lot of mothers, but the first one that we'll be listening to is a woman I've never met until right here. Her name is Shawnee Baker, and she has a daughter, Baylie. What happened to her and the journey that her mom has taken in all manner of child loss, grieving, being sad and angry, trying to start over, making sense of a loss, trying to explain the unexplainable. And I can tell from the little bit of talking we've done already that, like a lot of moms, Shawnee's driven and wants to see good and positive things come out of terrible bad things. And I think sometimes these are the lifelines that keep us going. So, Shawnee, welcome to 1,000 Tiny Steps. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Barb.
Tell me who Baylie was and what she was like and what happened to her.
Oh, thank you so much. Baylie was the brightest light. She was a happy child. Anywhere she went, she was always singing. She would dance around the kitchen. She was just full of love and light everywhere. People loved her. They were drawn to her. She had a lot of friends. She was an equestrian rider. She loved her horse. Yeah, she had a great connection with her horse, and that was really her whole world. Baylie was very intuitive. She was very good at manifesting things. And when she wanted something, she went after it, and it came to be true. She wanted to go away to school with her horse, to a boarding school where she could bring her horse. And that ended up happening when I met my husband, Scott. She was able to go to Kent and took her horse with her and joined the equestrian team at Kent. And that was really a dream come true. She had the University of Miami on her dream board, and that was one of the universities she applied to and was accepted to and got a scholarship for. So again, it just was meant to be. Everything seemed to line up for Baylie the way that it was supposed to be. And a part of that is what I write about in the book when I talk about breadcrumbs, because as if Bailey's life had been planned, there was a contract, and everything she did was leading the path to where it was meant to be. As much as I didn't want this to be the case and I didn't want her in Miami, that was the school on her dream board.
Yeah.
So Baylie had wanted to be a doctor from the time she was a little girl, and she was accepted into the pre-med program. She was a neuroscience major going into her sophomore year at the University of Miami. The summer before she went off to school that year, she wanted to pick up extra credits to keep her GPA high. You have to have a very high GPA for the neuroscience program. And knowing that organic chemistry was around the corner, she wanted to lighten her load, if you will, just so it would be a little easier. She took 8 physics credits at UNH. She busted her butt that summer, and she had 2 jobs. She worked as a lifeguard in the day. So she went to class in the morning, did her homework, worked as a lifeguard, and then worked as a waitress at night. So she really hadn't been out much that summer, not much of a social life at all, really just nose to the grind and getting things done. But that's the kind of kid she was. She was a really good kid, very responsible. She was the mother hen of her friends. And really, when the tragedy happened, one of the comments we heard from everyone was she was the least likely target. How could this happen to her?
Yeah.
Because she was the leader. She was always more mature than her age. She was very responsible. She had been through a lot in life. I'd been through a failed marriage, domestic violence, and being a single mom with my 3 children, 2 older brothers, and then Baylie the baby. She and I bonded really, really close. She was a best friend to me. So when Baylie went to the University of Miami, again, she joined the equestrian team, and she loved it there. She fit in really well. She was in the Zeta Chi Alpha sorority, and she really loved it in Miami. She was thriving there. We got there on the Sunday. I left on the Thursday. So I'd spent the week with her in Miami, getting her into her dorm room, everything set up. I flew back to the seacoast of New Hampshire on the Thursday night. I was leaving on a sailboat trip with my husband and four other couples the next morning, Friday morning. We chartered a sailboat off the coast of Maine, which we did every year. And it was a wonderful trip that we really enjoyed. It was just an escape. I spoke to Baylie on the Friday. I spoke to her again on Saturday. We talked about her room. We talked about she had some ants in her dorm room, just normal stuff
Yeah,
we
yeah.
thought we were going to deal with. And on that Saturday, she said, Mom, I'm going out tonight with the sorority girls. I'm so excited. I haven't been out all summer and I just want to have a fun weekend before school starts because on Monday, I really have to hunker down and get to work. This is a hard program. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go out again. And I said, well, you know what? Good for you. Go and enjoy yourself. And I wanted her to have fun because she really hadn't. We're on the trip. We lost service on the Saturday because we were 3 hours offshore. My last text to her, I told her that I loved her. I told her I would talk to her in the morning and hope she had fun that night. She went to a pool party in the daytime. There was a 21st birthday party. Baylie was 19. Her and her roommate had gone over. The boys were renting a house close to campus and they celebrated his birthday that day. There was drinking at the pool party. Her and her roommate went back to the dorm rooms, showered and changed, and got ready to go out that evening with their sorority sisters. At that time, Baylie had switched to drinking only water. And I guess she recognized she had had enough in the afternoon and didn't want to drink anymore. The group of sorority girls, there were 8 to 10 of them. They were at an apartment off campus and they took an Uber ride into town and went to the bars in Miami. Baylie went into the bar with her sorority sisters, drinking water, again reported by the bartender. By around 11 or 12 that night, she got a text from one of the boys that said, I'm done. I'm ready to go back home. Do you want to share a ride? Are you all set? She said, you know what? I've had enough too. I want to go back. I'm done. I'm tired. She told the girls that she was going to separate from them because she was meeting this boy on the sidewalk and they were going to ride share back to campus. The girls said, we don't want you to separate. We want to stick together. You know, that's what girls do. And she said, not to worry. I'm meeting him on the sidewalk. As soon as I'm with him, I'll send you a text and let you know I'm safe. She leaves the bar, but he stands her up. He doesn't show up. Sends her a text and says, I've changed my mind. I'm not coming. So she's upset. She's calling the girls and she's like, I can't believe he did this. He stood me up. I'm going to come back in. She tries to get back in the bar, but her fake ID is declined. She can't get in now. So she's out on the sidewalk alone. So she tells the girls they won't let me back in, but I'm going to go back to campus. I'm just going to call for a ride and head back to the dorms. So the girls are like, okay, please be safe. Let us know when you're in the car. She orders her ride and is waiting. Two young men approach her and say, we're med students at the University of Miami. Where are you headed? I'm going back to campus. So are we. What dorm are you in? She tells them, oh, we're in the same dorm as you. Oh, wow, so great to meet you. What program are you in? Oh, we took the same one. We're in the neuroscience program. We were in med school now. And anyway, they get chatting. Finally, they convince her to cancel her ride and go with them because they're all going to the same place and why not save some money? So she cancels her ride. They also told her that their ride was going to be there sooner. It would be there any minute. So she said, you know what? I'll just hop in with you. She cancels her ride and gets in their Uber and very quickly realizes she's made a mistake. She starts texting her girlfriends and tells the sorority friends and her roommate that she has made a mistake and she's with some random bros. They are sketchy guys and they won't tell her their real names and they're not headed back to campus. The car is going in a different direction. We're lost, she says. I don't know where we are. Apparently, the Uber had been ordered to do a loop. They take them on a big loop, 5 or 10 mile loop. Bailey's texting the girls saying, they're telling me we're going to go to another club. I don't know where we're going. The girls are texting back, Baylie, you've got to get out of there. Just get out of the car. She says, I will, I will. I'm just waiting for the right moment. They stop to get water. They tell her they're thirsty. We're going to just stop at this convenience store and get a water. And they go in to get a water and get one for her. But beside the convenience store, there's another door that leads to an apartment above the store, which happens to be this man's apartment. They're not med students, they're men in their 30s. He goes upstairs to his apartment and he comes back to the car with some silo cups, like red silo cups
Yeah.
with straws and water in them, and he gives that to Baylie. She's in the middle of the back seat with two men, one on either side of her,
Oh,
pretty trapped. And they want her to drink this water. She starts texting the girls, they want me to drink the water. They really want me to drink the water. They want me to drink it too much, is what the text says. The Uber driver is not helpful, not alerted to anything, doesn't say, hey, you know what? This isn't cool, guys. What's going on? Eventually, she spills her water in the Uber, but she did consume some of the water, according to the Uber driver. And by the time she spills it, he gets angry and says, I want everyone out of the car. You're responsible for the cleaning charges. I've had enough. You've spilled it all over. So he kicks all of them out. What it would have been nice if he kicked the boys out and took her to campus, but
right.
that's not what happened. So on the sidewalk now, in the middle of the night, it's 2:30 in the morning, and she's texting the girls that she's lost and confused and can't get back, doesn't know how to get home. Come get me. And they say, we can't come get you. You're far away. It's the middle of the night and it's pouring rain. There's a downpour at that time in downtown Miami, and she's on the side of the street 3 miles away from where the girls are. They said, get an Uber. She says, I can't. I don't know how. What do you mean you don't know how? You've called an Uber all day. Several times you've ordered Ubers. I know, but now I don't know how. I can't figure it out. I don't know how to use my phone. Okay, well, just use GPS. I don't know how to open the app. I can't figure it out. I can't type in the right thing. This is on phone. She says, okay, I'm going to text you a pin for our location. Tell me if you can open the pin. The text comes through with a pin for the location of the girls. She says, yes, I can open it. Thank God. The girls say, okay, great. Just follow the pin and we'll track you on Friend Finder. We'll watch you. We'll follow you. Just keep walking. They continue to have phone calls. They continue texting. Are you okay? Where are you at? How far are you? We can see you. You're almost here. Just keep walking. You're so close. You're doing great. They watched her walk right into 6 lanes of traffic. And then they sent a text and said, you haven't moved in 10 minutes. Why aren't you moving? And then they heard sirens and they ran outside and saw that she had been hit by a
Oh,
car.
she was that close. My
Mhm.
heart is in my throat. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mhm.
So had she ditched the guys by this time? Like, had they
Yeah,
left?
she
And
had, because she spilled the water. They recognized they weren't going to drug her. We don't know what the purpose was, if they were taking her somewhere, what they were going to do. The girls run out. They take her by ambulance to the closest trauma center. One of her roommate goes in the car with her, goes in the ambulance with her, and then she's taken into surgery immediately. I don't know anything. This is at 3 in the morning, and we're on a sailboat with no signal. I don't know if anyone tried to call me, but I have no notice of this. At 8 in the morning, sitting on the back of the sailboat with a coffee, watching the seals, everything's fine. I think life's great. I send a text to Baylie. I finally get a signal on my phone, and I thought, oh, I'm going to text her and see if she's up yet. And I thought, oh, she's probably still sleeping, but I'll text her anyway. And it bounced back. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange because I have 4 bars on my phone. Well, it bounced back because her phone was crushed in the accident. Right after that, the phone rang and it said Miami-Dade Police Department. So I picked up the phone and they said, are you Bailey's mom? And I said, yes. And they said, there's been a terrible accident. Bailey's alive, but you need to come to Miami immediately. And I said, what's happened? I'm sorry, we can't tell you, but there's been a terrible accident. Just come to Miami. Well, where is she? She's in the hospital. Well, how bad is this? I wish I could tell you more. Please just come to Miami. Well, did she break her leg? I can't tell you. Did she hit her head? I can't tell you. Please just tell me she didn't hit her head. That's all I need to know. I can't tell you. I wish I could tell you more. Please just come. Here's the phone number for the hospital. I get off the phone with the police officer. I run down to my husband, who still isn't out of bed, wake him up, give him this information. He calls the officer, gets the same story. He's like, I don't understand. They can't tell us anything. They said it's a privacy law. We're not allowed to know. I
because
said, well,
she's 18.
yeah, they can't
Oh,
tell us.
God.
I said, well, like, can we talk to her? Can you put her on the phone? I'll talk to my daughter. We can't do that. Why not? Why can't I talk to her? Right? So finally, he calls the hospital And they said, we can't tell you anything. She's in surgery. When the surgeon is out of surgery, he'll call you. We're waiting. In the meantime, I have no idea what's happening. Then my husband calls again because we're so impatient. And he
Yeah.
says, I need to talk to someone. I need to know what's going on right now. Like, is she alive? Like, what's going on? So they said, the surgeon just got out. He'll talk to you. He says, we just finished a 9-hour surgery on your daughter and we need you to come to Miami immediately. And he says, what kind of surgery? I can't tell you. I wish I could disclose this over the phone. Do you have a healthcare proxy? No, we don't. Well, then you just need to get here. As next of kin, you need to get here. And my husband pushed him and pushed him. And he said, look, all I can tell you is that you may be coming to Miami to say goodbye to your daughter. Get on a plane. So we got on a plane. We turned around, 3 hours back to shore. Then we finally get to the airport. We get a plane. There's a layover in New York, a 6-hour layover.
Oh
We
my
finally
God.
get to her 16 hours later, 11 o'clock at night, really not knowing anything. I've called my family, told everybody they got to come to this Miami. And they're like, why? And I'm like, I don't know. So then we get in and we're told everything when we get there. Completely told everything because we're next of kin. So they share, here's what happened. She was in a car accident. She was hit by a car. These are her injuries. She has 4 major cranial bleeds. We've gone in and stopped the bleeding, but there's extreme swelling. She's almost unrecognizable to me. The swelling is so unbelievable. I really have never seen anyone as badly injured as my daughter was. She had a GCS of 3, which is the lowest Glasgow Coma scale you can have before death.
Wow.
She's in a coma, not induced. This is a coma from the trauma.
Right.
So the following morning, well, they talk about doing a craniotomy, which is cutting off her skull
Yep.
so that it can swell. And they decide they're going to drill holes in her head instead to relieve the swelling, which isn't enough, but that's what they do. So then the following morning, the police come in to talk to us and they say, we believe there's been foul play. And we said, what do you mean? And they said, well, we wanted to know why your daughter was walking alone at 3 in the morning in downtown Miami. And we're like, yeah, we want to know too. Like, why
Right.
is she there? And they said it appears that she may have been drugged because the video surveillance we're watching of her walking is quite similar to what we see of a girl who's been roofied.
Yeah.
She's not drunk and she doesn't walk like a drunk person. She doesn't stumble or trip or fall. She walks perfectly straight, but she is completely oblivious to any senses.
Right.
Yeah, so it's like zombie.
Yeah.
So she can't hear, she can't see. Like the car comes up to her hip and lays on the horn, but she doesn't react. She
She
doesn't
doesn't
even turn.
flinch. Oh,
Yeah. She just keeps walking. So several cars laid on their horn and swerved and flashlights, but
and she just kept
nobody,
walking. Right.
yeah, and nobody got out of their car to say, hey, why isn't this girl reacting to my horn? Or,
Yeah.
so
Oh,
hard because everybody just minds their own business.
right.
And here
Right.
she is. At that point, they start looking at video surveillance, and there's actually a video of this guy at the convenience store. There's a video on the street camera in front of the store that shows him reaching for the handle, going to the other handle, going upstairs, coming out with the silo cups. And you can see Baylie in the car when the door opens. We have that evidence. We have the text messages. We have the phone calls. They interview the kids. When did Baylie call you? When she got out of the car, she phoned us and told us what had happened in the Uber ride and that she couldn't figure out her phone. And, now they live with that guilt because they didn't know how to help her. They didn't know
Right.
how to get a car to her. They didn't know how to send her help.
To
Uh,
call 911 or just all the, listening to the story, my mother brain immediately will do this, do this, do this, do this. Like you want to know why.
Sit
You
down
must
and
do this.
don't move.
Right.
Don't walk. Yeah. Because if
Sit
you
down,
can't
don't
use your
work, call
phone,
911. Yeah, like, oh,
wrong. So we went back into the hospital and said, did you do toxicology? Has there been blood and alcohol drawn on her? And they said, no. In the state of Miami, it is standard protocol to not do a toxicology on a trauma patient because the insurance company will deny the claim of the hospital stay. They say it's their fault, the patient's fault. So, yeah, so that was our first eye opener. So we said, well, we need it drawn. We need you to do it. And they said, well, that would be up to the ethics committee because they've taken guardianship of your daughter. given that she's incapacitated and you do not have a healthcare proxy, major decisions need to be made by the hospital, and the ethics committee usually steps up to take over. If you need guardianship of your daughter to be the decision maker, you'll need to go to court, and in front of a judge, you can get guardianship. Unfortunately, that's backed up a couple of months, so it takes time. So for guardianship right now, we have to go through the ethics committee. Then we went to the police and said, can you tell them to draw this blood? We need to know if she's been drugged or not. And the police ordered it. But by the time it got drawn, it was 48 hours later and the drug was gone. It's
Yeah, the
short.
roofie drug would be gone by then. What this reminds me of is my medical malpractice lawsuit experience. And I was warned about this ahead of time, but it was never going to stop me from doing it. The hospital has insurance so they can pay off my claim. So they're not going to lose a penny. They have insurance. But they want the claim to be as small as possible. So what they do is they use extreme measures to hide the truth, hide whatever steps were taken that might not have been right or were made for dubious reasons, like, oh, let's not draw anything because the insurance, like, why does some guy with a purple tie in Hartford, Connecticut, an insurance company get to make decisions about Bailey's drug test? Give me a break, right?
Justice isn't served.
No, at all. And then the next piece was to make me look as bad as possible.
Yeah.
So that if we went to court, a jury would look at me as a disgusting human being and not look at me as the mother of a dead child. So when I hear someone say, well, we can't because the hospital, enrages me. Because at that moment, at any moment, what's more important, some business or a human being? And sadly, in these cases, it's the business again and again and again.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. It was too late for evidence.
Yep.
The following morning, we also got a text message on our Instagram account. So when we get this information, now we start digging, right? So my husband puts out a post. He's like, I want to offer a $10,000 reward to anyone who has any information on the guys who may have been with my daughter last night. The police come to my husband and say, listen, don't post the reward. That's our job. Let us investigate. And he said, who's investigating? He said, we have the traffic cops looking into it. And he said, well, this is a homicide case. So now the homicide team is put on the case and they start interviewing the Uber driver, the bartender, all these people. They finally find the guys. They bring them in for interview. The guy's first question is, was there anything in her blood? Was she drugged? And the police officers say no. And they say, well, she asked to come with us. She was begging us to come for a ride to the bars. She wanted to join us and go clubbing. And she asked for the water and, and that's their story. He interviews the Uber driver, and the Uber driver just says, I don't speak any English. I don't know what was happening. I have no idea what was going on.
Which is also not true.
He's no help at all. And then we look through her accounts. The boys pull up her Instagram account, her brothers, and they go, Mom, look at this. And the guy on the video who gave her the water has sent her a text through Instagram that says, how did you like your water? So we know she was drugged. We know she was drugged. Later, quite a while later, after all of this has happened, the Sex Coalition, a woman from the Sex Coalition, Trafficking Coalition in Miami reaches out to me and says, I've heard about your daughter. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the scenario that happened is something we see in sex trafficking. And I said, no, I didn't know that. And she said, there will be two men who approach a young girl alone. They get her in an Uber. They take her on loops. They give her water in the Uber. The loop, typically it takes 5 to 10 minutes for the drug to work. They pass out while they're driving around, and then they get the Uber driver to take them to the hotel across from the airport. So this year past, there have been 2 students at the University of Miami who had exactly the same thing happen to them that Baylie did. They passed out in the car, and they did wake up in the hotel across from the airport. Now they were able to get away, but the transparency rule says that colleges don't have to disclose any of this information, and they don't. No one knows that. No one knows about Bailey's story, and no one knows about these 2 girls. And so without the transparency, it continues to happen, and these young girls have no idea what this scenario plays out like. And so part of the foundation is really advocating for transparency and honesty and just I recognize that these colleges are a $900 billion industry and they are unregulated and they don't have to share anything and they value reputation over safety. But if we could get some laws passed that shared how many deaths occurred on campus, how many alcohol related deaths, how many pedestrian fatalities happen around the school.
Right.
You know, how many reports of roofies, how many reports of sex trafficking, or any of these incidents were, at least they kept the data on them, but currently there's no data on any of it.
So I was a health educator for the last several years of my public school teaching career. And Health 2 was a class that kids took in 11th grade. And the last unit we did was supposed to be, relationships, sex, birth control, all that. And I always did a first semester of college unit. I was able to get this data through New Hampshire State Police, I believe. The gist of it was the highest rate of sexual assaults on college campuses happened to girls in their first semester of college. And why is that? Well, because you're away for the first time. You don't have your mom reminding you 50 times, and you're out on your own, and you're with your people and everyone's your age. And so you just have this, this inflated sense of safety. And so we would go through all these different scenarios. I went to this wonderful workshop and I'd give everyone like a name, like a role, like drug dealer, kidnapper, and we would just act all these things out. And there was a measure of humor to it because it kept them engaged and kept it from being too traumatic to learn about. But it's been amazing to me all these years later, the number of my students who remembered that unit and said, no one else ever told us anything like that. You would think a
So
college would have
important.
a freshman orientation that went over all of that.
Very important. Yep. Yep.
And the whole consent piece, like girls, alcohol, gentlemen, alcohol takes away consent. If she's drunk and you hurt her, she did not consent to that. Likewise, may feel like a double standard, but alcohol doesn't absolve you of responsibility. So you can't say, well, I was drunk. Okay, well, but you did it anyway. So no conversations at all about it. It's
Yeah, it's really
insane.
difficult. And these kids are just too young. I mean, they
Yeah.
say they're adults, but they're not. They're not adults at 18.
This generation too spends so much time talking like we are, on a computer in their room, texting,
Hmm.
social media, that face-to-face interaction is less and less and less. It's all organized. It's at a classroom at school or on
Yeah.
your sports team after school or at your horse barn or
The
at your dance
sweethearts are
class.
not there. They're just not.
No, no.
Yeah.
Oh, my heart is
Yeah.
in my throat. I have to, oh God.
Yeah. It's awful. So then this ordeal continues. Bailey's in a coma at the hospital. We're there for 4 weeks. We finally get permission to transfer her to Boston, which was another huge hurdle because we really didn't have the right to transfer her.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me back up. People reached out and said, send us her MRI and CT scan. We'll give you a second opinion. Friends of my husband's, people in New York, people in Boston, neurologists, get the scans and send them to us. We asked for medical records, but again, we couldn't access them
Right.
because we didn't have HIPAA or we didn't have healthcare proxy. So we
Right.
couldn't have access their privacy law. So had we had those medical records, had we had the scans to send, we would have known about the bleed in the brainstem because we would have had a second opinion
Right.
early. So we didn't get that. So we send her to Boston, Air Life, and in Boston, they do the assessment, they bring us in, they want to talk to us about what's happened. It's unusual because they don't just come talk to us in the waiting room. That's like this whole big thing, come into this meeting room, big round table, all the teams there, doctors, nurses, clergy, ethics committee, social work. I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, we have some really bad news for you. And we're like, what's happening? Because here we thought we were on a trajectory for recovery. We're
Right.
already trying to get her into rehab. We've already talked about doing ramps at the house for her recovery. And they said there was a significant brainstem injury that was missed in Miami. And we're like, what are you talking about? And they said, well, I don't know why, but they misdiagnosed her. And we've had 3 different neurologists as well as the radiologist look at the scans, and there's a significant bleed in the brainstem that they overlooked. The bleed is called a direct hemorrhage. There is a 1% survival with it. Your daughter was already at a 7% survival with the major bleeds she had. And now, with the combination of the two, there really has never been anyone who has survived the kind of injuries that Baylie has. So the chances are she will never come out of a coma, she will never open her eyes, and she will remain in a vegetative state for the rest of her days. She will need 24-hour care or institutionalized because you won't be able to care for her at home. A year prior, Baylie had once said to me, Mom, promise me there's something worse than dying, being trapped in a body that doesn't work. Promise me you'll never let that happen to me. I said, Baylie, I promise you, don't let it happen to me. And here that promise was, echoing in my mind
Yeah.
as I'm sitting there with no control,
Right.
no power.
Right.
So I told them, I said, Baylie wouldn't want to survive this. And they said, we are too late. We're 6 weeks into this. The window of opportunity for withdrawing life support would have been in that first week, had we known. So they had done a tracheotomy on her. She was breathing on her own. They said it's highly unlikely that she would breathe on her own, but yet she did. Who knew? Then if we had had a healthcare proxy, we could have made that choice.
Right.
We didn't have one. So the law was pretty clear that provided that she was breathing on her own, she would need to continue life. So we opted to do another very strange part of the story. When I went to her dorm room in Miami, there was a book on her nightstand called Into the Gray Zone. So I picked up the book and I was like, what is this? And it was a book about being in a coma. Her bookmark was on a page that said, that was about a young girl hit by a car. I couldn't believe it. I just was like, how is this even possible? So I showed my family. They were all like, this is unbelievable, as if she knew her own destiny. She
Right.
read about her destiny before it happened. So I keep the book with me. Long story, we're in Boston now. The doctor comes and says to us, we're doing a clinical trial. It's the first clinical trial in the United States to be done on consciousness. It's called the functional MRI. It's been done in the UK and Canada, but not here. We would like your daughter to be a part of this study to see if there is any awareness or consciousness in there under the coma before we make these major decisions. And I said, is it called a functional MRI? He said, yes. I said, I read about it in her book on her nightstand. She was reading about it before
Oh,
this happened. And the doctor says, you've got to be kidding me. And I said, no. And he said, because I'm the only doctor in all of the United States doing this clinical trial. And it's brand new. And by the way, your daughter will be the first patient to do this. So Baylie is the first in the clinical study. So they do the test, and sure enough, there is no brain activity. In the meantime, I'm reading, she's not considered brain dead because there was some activity at the ears, but it doesn't connect anywhere in the skull. So I'm reading along in the book. And as I keep reading, he's describing this horrific life of people
locked
trapped
in. Yeah.
in coma and what that's like for them
Right.
and how terrifying it is that no one knows they're in there locked in.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, Baylie is communicating with me, but she doesn't want to be saved.
No.
She's telling me how awful this is. Please don't do this to me, Mom. So here I am. I'm reading the book. I understand. She doesn't want this. We have to let her go. So we had to fight for that. We had to get a team of lawyers. We had to go up against the hospital. The ethics committee called 10 family members to ask them what they would think Baylie would want. Everybody was unanimous. The medical community, the ethics board, everybody said, yes, you're right. Quality of life is terrible. She wouldn't want this. We agree that best thing to do is to let her go. Sunday night, we got a call from the lawyers and the CEO of the hospital at 9 o'clock, and they said, I'm sorry, we've decided to keep your daughter alive.
What?
And we said, why? And they said, you don't have a healthcare proxy. It's the law. And on top of that, we're risking getting sued. There could be a lawsuit from someone who would come out of the woodwork that we discontinued care. So my husband said, what's the law? What is the most they can sue for? He said, we're a nonprofit hospital, so the maximum they can sue us for is $25,000.
Give me a break. Then here's here's $25,000. Unplug
My
my
husband
damn
said,
kid.
I'll write you a check for $25,000. The hospital said, no, sorry, not good enough, not going to fly. And he said, well, what do I have to do? And they said, really, there's nothing you can do. This is the law. We have to keep her alive. So they said, we will transfer her to an institution in the morning. My husband said, well, you need to make sure your PR department is ready in the morning because I'm going to make sure this is on every news station to let them know that the profits that the hospital is getting for keeping our daughter alive exceeds the amount of the lawsuit. You are making more money off of her
Right.
than you would be to let her go. And they said, oh, no, no. And he said, well, you need to change your minds. I'll wait for a call. Half an hour later, they called back and said, we've changed our minds. We're going to let her go. So we transferred her to palliative care. I had to go through all that grief. In the meantime, I'm pregnant. This is my second family with Scott never had a family. I'm in my 40s. I met Scott when I was 39. I had 3 children before I was 23. And we had all talked about it, talked to the kids about it. They're like, yes, Mom, go do this. You know, you're going to be a stay-at-home mom this time. You won't have to work. I'd been a nurse for 20 years, worked in the NICU, nights, weekends. So I'm pregnant Baylie was so excited. She helped me set up the nursery. Now I'm grieving the loss of my daughter. I'm in early labor with this baby, an IVF baby at that. It's just horrific. So Baylie passed. I went into a severe depression. I was grieving and I had postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, anxiety. I was medicated. I was on suicide watch. I delivered a baby 3 months after the service. And I had to have my mom and sister there. They wanted to hospitalize me in a psychiatric ward. It was awful.
Oh,
Savannah was born 5 weeks early, but she was okay and she didn't need to go to the NICU, didn't need anything for withdrawal from the antidepressants or medication I had been taking. But unfortunately, she was with a grieving mother for months and months. Really, you grieve for at least 2 full years
right.
before you can function again.
5 years is what my neurologist at Dartmouth, when we had to decide to unplug Molly, and the locked in piece was a big part for her too. Her tumor was brainstem. So the intellect part and all this up here was fine, which is the part that's awake. And they simply said, we can't promise that, because I didn't want to unplug her. And they said, it doesn't take all that long. Once everything settles down, she's going to be stuck in there. And that's a terrifying feeling. And she wouldn't have wanted that. One of the neurologists there, he said, it's my experience as in 30 years of this, when parents lose children, 5 years. 5 years is about the time it takes for one teeny tiny part of your brain to be able to comprehend the possibility of living through this. So
Yeah.
give yourself 5 years. Tell people to shut up. Now, I have an IVF baby. I don't know if you know that.
No.
Shortly after Molly died, I started having these weird dreams, like really intense dreams about having a baby. And so I was 54 when she died. So I had Jack at 57, IVF baby. He's 4 now. And I had wicked postpartum, like it wasn't depression. It was like anxiety and anger. It's like so much of the anger part of my grief came out when Jack was born. It was alarming. That's why I started this podcast, because I'm like, I need to get this out of me. Like whatever's going on in my head, I need to talk about it.
Wow, I can't
Yeah.
believe
Yeah.
it.
So I'm 61 and I have a 4-year-old.
Oh my
Yay.
God,
I know. See, look at these
incredible.
connections though. It's just weirdness sometimes.
It is so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
So I went, my psychiatrist, had a grief counselor, psychiatrist, a psychologist, the whole works. And he had worked with parents of children in high school shootings. And he said to me the same sort of thing. He said, the brain has to restructure. He said, you
Yes.
can't comprehend this. It needs to rewire. It needs to lay down new foundation, new network. It needs to sever, sadly, and
Yes.
detach from that pain. And
Right.
in order for it to do that, it's going to burn a lot of calories. He said it's about 300 calories a day for the brain to go through this process of rewiring and
Yeah.
understanding what's happened. And that is a 2-year process and
Yeah.
probably 5 years of complete recovery.
Right.
But I think it's really important for people to understand this. I sure wish society understood this, that a grieving mother is actually someone going through.
Major neurological issues.
Yeah.
Yes. I just had this conversation an hour ago in my podcast interview. One of the questions was, what would you want other people to know about it? And I'm like, we're not a driveling pile of emotions. A mother and a child, they're hardwired. They communicate. And then when the baby's born, those connections get stronger because now the baby's out of the mother. So it's even stronger. So then when either part of that relationship dies, a child loses a mother loses a child, the survivor, the brain goes nuts. Like, why is there no response? Sending the messages. And that so much of when I finally turned a corner with Molly was some EMDR therapy and just consciously change, like when I getting up on the other side of the bed, going down the back stairs, not the front stair. Like seriously, just changing any little thing I could change in a consistent way, just re-networks the whole thing and just calms it down. No, people just think that, oh, you're so strong. No, I'm not strong. Like I'm a mess and I'm doing the best I can here, but it's so much of it is neurological.
Yeah, it is. And it's really unknown to the
Right.
general population.
Yes.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And it's really sad because no one knows what to say, what to do, how to
Yeah.
be, because they don't understand it.
Right.
Yeah. I went through all of that as well. But, I've created this foundation. I always knew I needed to write a book
Yeah.
about what had happened. And we combined the book with the foundation to be sort of a fundraiser and to bring awareness. So I've written Bailey's story. Bailey's story is more than just her story. It goes through my marriage in
Yep.
a very emotionally dysfunctional, abusive marriage.
Yep.
the resilience that we had built up moving from Canada to Boston, my experience as a nurse, and then what happened to Baylie, the whole healthcare proxy thing, the college safety thing, and then the afterlife, which both of us know is real.
Oh,
And
yes.
the signs and the communication from the
Yes.
other side that is
Yes.
absolutely mind-blowing.
Yes.
You almost think you're going crazy, and
Right.
you are very confused, and you are lost in this place of grief and faith
Right.
and understanding what's happening, and why are we even here?
Yeah.
And so it takes a long time for that to be processed and understood,
Yeah.
our purpose for being here.
Right.
And that at the end of the day, the only thing that's real is love.
Right.
Only thing that we can attach to
Yeah.
and hold on to is
Yep.
love.
Yep. The other
Uh,
piece is we don't stop being their mother. So Gracie, sometimes my daughter Gracie will get, I'm here too, Mom. I'm still here. And you pay all this attention to Molly. And I finally had to say to her, look, I text you every day. I comment on your social media. I keep your room here at home clean. And every day I mother you. I mother you all the time. And the only way I can mother Molly is the foundation in the book. So if I'm posting about her 10 times a day, think about 10 things I might have done for you the same day. As
mhm.
your mother, you're here. I get to mother you. How can I mother? And it was a good way to explain it to her. She's a very literal thinker because she's like, oh, yeah, I guess I didn't think about it that way. But that's another piece of it. We don't stop being their mother.
No.
So all I can do for Molly is write a book and do a podcast and
Yeah.
start a
Yeah.
foundation and buy
Yeah.
pink violins for anyone that wants one. And,
Yeah.
these sometimes things that feel meaningless. We just had our big gala. I do these raffle bouquets. So it's like a bouquet of gift cards and it's in a coffee mug with Molly's picture on it. It's like a tumbler. And so I always give away a lot of tickets because I want people that could never afford the theater to come to these big
Oh, nice.
dress
Yeah.
up. So like 6 of the raffle winners of like the 12 were people that had been gifted tickets. So it made me happy because they bought tickets.
Yeah.
And the response to this one mother with 4 daughters, I love them. They come to my track camp and I showed up with their little thing and it was like Christmas. It was like the biggest thing ever. And we had so much fun and
Yeah.
can you stay and visit? And so all these this is when I feel that whatever form Molly is in and whenever she's nearby, that she's right in it, that she's
Yeah.
in the middle of the group hug or that she's sitting off to the side clapping. And then I've had some very, very, I'm sure you have too, very, very strong visits. I had all these brain tumors in my head, brain tumors. In the process of trying to have Jack, I got diagnosed with 3 brain tumors, which was a nightmare. I would never have found them if I weren't trying to have Jack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a nerve condition called trigeminal neuralgia. And so I couldn't take the medicine pregnant, but I was in too much pain. So I said, well, I'll have my head fixed. I'll have the mouth fixed. And in that process, found these tumors. So I had to go through all of that in the process of having
Wow.
Jack. And I had unbelievable visits from Molly during that time, crazy visits. A former babysitter of Molly's was living in Wisconsin and called on the phone and said, hey, the bartender's a medium. And she asked me, was I Molly's babysitter? Like, how does this bartender know that Amy was Molly's babysitter and had all these things to tell me about the brain tumor? And she's in Wisconsin. She knows I have a brain. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah. What's the name of the foundation? Bailey's Story, Bailey's
Bailey's
Wish.
Wish Foundation,
Okay.
and we are advocating for college safety. So we want more transparency, better amnesty law. We want healthcare proxies
Yeah.
on
Well, I'm going to post that all over everything
yeah.
because I'm going to do it for my daughter.
Yeah, well, we've actually teamed up with trustandwill.com, who've created a landing page specifically for the Bailey's Wish Foundation.
Oh, perfect.
So if you purchase it through them, a portion of the proceeds go to the foundation. It's $69 to get it through Trust and Will. You can get all 4 forms. You can complete it online and submit it. It's very easy. You choose what state and just do it in a one-time form. And we chose them because they were really quite advanced. They had many, like 5,000 5-star reviews. They have 300 attorneys, and we
Yeah.
wanted something that would be really solid, that would stand up in court no matter what.
Yes.
That's why we wanted to go with them. And then we've also teamed up with another company called Third Eye, 3rd-i.org. And it's a safety app that's brand new, just been created, that we believe would have saved Bailey's life. But the colleges do a blue light system in the
Right.
parking.
Yes. Yes. That I'm aware of.
So the blue
That's
light
been around since I was in college, though. I mean,
back to the 80s.
yeah.
The blue light system is very outdated. They have to run up to a light, press a button, and wait for police to come.
Yeah.
No one uses it. They haven't used it in years. It's
No.
way outdated. Do you know that system costs the college $90,000 a year to maintain, and they've never changed it. So we want
That's
them to
insane.
change the blue light system and put that $90,000
For an
towards a
app.
safety app on the
Yeah,
phone.
right.
And the app that this particular happens to be University of Miami grad, again, the
Again, thank you,
connections are so
Baylie.
strange.
Yeah,
And he created this app that records everything. So you press the button when you get in the rideshare and it records the entire thing, video and audio. And it allows people to join the conversation. So you can click on and say, Mom, listen to this. My friend, listen to this. Up to 10 people can listen to what's happening right then and there in that Uber ride. It's all recorded. It can be sent to 911 discreetly. And you can also send Amber Alerts from that app. So say you wanted to tell your mom and she's not answering, her phone will light up with an Amber Alert that her daughter's in a rideshare and needs her now. And she can tune in and listen and
oh my
track her
God.
location, call for help, everything. But the evidence would be there because it's submissible in court. So he was able to get that to be submissible. Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And I love that it can be sent to 911 so the girl doesn't have to talk on the phone.
Right, it's all happening.
Mhm.
Right, right. Oh, we live in such crazy times. I mean,
We do.
yeah, I can't wrap my
Yeah.
head around it. This sort of false sense of safety that, you and I can talk 70 miles away. And, we spent the Christmas holiday in Indonesia and I could talk to Gracie every day. And so you have this sense that you can just reach out and somebody's right there, except they aren't. And
I
we don't
know.
we don't have the mechanisms anymore as young people to go up to a blue box and punch a button. Like it isn't even something in our
No,
mind that we would think to do.
no, no. But
Yeah.
it's just not going to work
No,
anymore.
no.
So we want to make some changes. We want colleges to be safer and more accountable and more transparency to families, and we want to create this mandatory healthcare forms with every college admission so that the parents know about it, first of all, and the option is to fill it out or not.
So I'm going to make a suggestion, and this is just me
Hmm.
thinking from my lens as a high school teacher, but this would be an amazing thing to market as a graduation present for high
Yes,
school seniors.
I
Like
know.
you're going off to college,
I
get this
know.
app, college safety. Like I would market the heck out of that thing
I know. We
because
are. We're
because
trying
it's
to. We're trying to. And the third part of it is the book. And so the book
yes.
we feel really resonates. We put a lot of effort into the book. So we originally took the book. A neighbor and friend of ours is Dan Brown, author of the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
He comes over for dinner often. We go out for pizza, and he sort of guided us through this process. He was reading the book. He said, Look, you've really got something here. You're a good writer. We're going to make something of this book. But he said, I don't want you to take it to the big publishers because they're going to take 85% profit.
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to change the book and they're going to own the book, copyrights of the book. Keep your book. You can do this on your own. So we hired an amazing editor from one of the top five. We spent a lot of money on getting this book
Yeah.
done really professionally, high quality. It took us a year to get it out there in the marketplace. And so it's ready to go. People are giving us great feedback. They say they can't put it down. And the point is, if a girl reads this, say an 18, 19, 20-year-old girl reads the book,
Right.
they will connect so much to Baylie. I think they'll never forget it.
Right.
I hope that they will read it and have it feel like it happened to them or this could have been me because it really could be anybody. It's not, the girl who's out partying every day. It's anybody.
Right.
It can be
Right.
the most responsible kid out there,
That's right.
but they let
That's
their guard down at 1 minute. She trusted those boys. She believed they were med students
yeah.
and they weren't.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I do a lesson, well, when I was teaching health. So my podcast is called A Thousand Tiny Steps. And the whole point of the lesson was that, people do horrible things or have horrible things happen to them and they do great things. But you don't wake up and say, I'm going to win a gold medal in the Olympics today and then win one. That proclamation is the first of 1,000 steps anyway that get you to your gold medal. Likewise, you don't wake up and say, yeah, I think I'll get shit-faced and run over my neighbor's kid with my car. But every day somebody gets drunk and runs over somebody's kid with their car. Like these things happen. So when did they start? And we did this whole process on all the steps back to what caused the thing. And part of my podcast experience for me was trying to make sense of Molly's death because I just felt so much of it was my fault, not paying attention, I missed the last week of her life. I was on a vacation that she didn't want me to go on. And so I come home and she's not awake. And I look at Bailey's story and I look at all the little innocent left turns instead of right turns that she took in
Yes.
the last day of her life.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
right decisions she made, and how even though you make the right decision, the outcome of that decision, had she just sat in the bar and drank water with her friends all night, she might have been tired, but you and I wouldn't know each other.
I know. Had
Just,
the
it's,
boy come out of the bar and met her?
yes, yeah,
Had he taken her, had they shared a ride together, this boy she knew very well? I mean,
yes,
there's so many different things. Had she been able to get back into the club with her fake
yes,
ID?
right.
You know, I had a lot of people who've said to me, well, the first mistake was she was underage and she went into a bar with fake ID. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
okay,
God.
you can victim blame all you want,
Yeah.
but how many kids are out there drinking
Yeah,
underage?
give me a
A
break.
lot.
Go back to when you were underage. Like, get off your high horse here. Yeah, I can't. Oh,
So, you know, my thing is people will say to me, well, you need to tell them to stop drinking underage. Well, that's never going to work. We've been
no.
trying to do
And
that
that's
for
never going to happen. So
decades.
stop already.
I think we need to make a bigger safety net and
Yes.
make these kids not so afraid to get help. They were afraid to get help because they were underage.
Right. So
That's
they
why
look at,
they didn't ask for help. They
right.
were drinking underage.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, oh, Shawnee, my heart breaks for you.
Yeah,
It all just sucks.
it does. Yeah. But thank you. And I think if we can, like you said, we make something good of it. We do what
Yes.
we can and we make lemonade out of the lemons we were handed to try to make the world a better place.
Yes. And we keep talking about the
Yeah.
Baileys and the Mollies and,
Yes.
the number of things that happened to her in the 6 weeks we took her to the doctors again and again. I can't even, wrap my head around the number of things I could have done differently, but I
Yep.
didn't. And here I am.
I
Right.
know.
So,
And we can
um,
beat ourselves up over the what ifs, but the
okay, great.
foundation, the first 5,000 copies of the book, 100% of the profits will go to the foundation.
Nice.
So we are actually encouraging people to buy it from the foundation or from the website because
And track
when
it
you
better.
buy it from Amazon, they take 40%.
Right.
So if we can get people to buy it from the website, then all the funds can go to the foundation. Bookstores and Amazon take 40%.
Yeah.
So does Barnes and Noble,
Yeah.
which is a huge cut. And it's interesting though, despite the fact that we try to sell it off of the foundation and let people know this is a fundraiser and you're giving to a charity.
I feel that way about Molly's book too, because I get, royalty checks every month and they're not big. And I realize, if they're selling the book for $25, I get like, $12 or whatever. It's like, or $13. It's like, okay. But
Yeah,
what I try to remind myself is somebody is holding my book in their hands, learning about my
I
child.
know. I
And
know. And
yeah,
that's wonderful. And
yeah,
that's more
yeah,
than anything. If we could get the foundation, if we got enough donations, we would give the book away.
yeah,
It's either or, like either sell the book to raise the money or raise the money and give the book away.
yeah. We are walking the same path.
We are, but if
Yeah,
I could get this book and the healthcare proxy and the safety app into the hands of every graduating student, I would
right,
be so happy.
right. That's
I
right.
would
I
love
agree.
that. What a
Yeah,
great gift, but it's a
yes.
difficult gift to market because people will say, "Oh, you're just trying to self-profit or you're trying to get money for your foundation." I'm like, "No, I
But,
really believe in this. I really
yes,
think this is a
yes,
good
yes.
thing."
Yeah, no, people,
Yeah, like it really is the best gift you could give a
right.
kid.
Whenever people judge things that I'm doing around Molly, I just say, "Oh, I wasn't aware you'd lost a child." And they look at me like, "Well, I haven't." I'm like, "Thank you for your
That's
words.
right. Thanks very much.
You don't know
Right.
what I'm going through." So does Bailey's Wish, do you have a website?
Bailey'sWish.org.
Okay.
And then Baylie.com is to purchase the book. Fan page for the Bailey's Wish Foundation and Facebook. We're on X. We're on all of them
Yeah.
really, but primarily Instagram and Facebook. So I really hope we make a difference with this. And I know you're doing some fantastic work through your foundation and what you're doing for Molly. And I
Yeah,
really
but
think
this is a piece of it too,
we are like shining light parents, right?
Yes,
And they
yes,
are coming through
yes.
us.
And we're being the best mothers we can. That's
Yeah.
how I look at it. I can't mother her now,
Yeah.
but I can. And this is how I mother her. I mother her by talking to you and mothering Baylie.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we do. This has been fantastic. I can't wrap my head around it. We live in, not far from each other, which
Mhm.
this
Thank
is a
you.
wonderful connection. Yeah. Thank you, Shawnee. I want to thank you so much. As twisted as this will sound to my visitors, one of my favorite parts of life is talking to other mothers who have lost children. And that can sound macabre. Like, why do you want to find, what a horrible way to meet somebody, except you understand me 120%, even though our circumstances are completely different, because the parts of our grief and loss that are so gutting are identical. We have our daughters who are no longer here. I always revel in meeting new moms. That's just the reality of my life. Really, really appreciate you being willing to come on and talk about Baylie. And I love that I know her now and I know how I can find out more about her. As always, do something good for yourself. And so my suggestion is to go buy this book and look at this foundation website and get to know Baylie. That will be a wonderful thing for you to do for yourself. After you've done something good for yourself, do something good for someone else. Share the book with a friend. Suggest the app to the daughter or son of a friend. Buy the app yourself and get to know it, right? And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Hey, thanks for listening and supporting the podcast. Feel free to leave a review and share my stories with your friends. Please reach out with your own stories, as I love connecting with my listeners. If you would like to get to know Molly, head over to mollybfoundation.org to see what she is all about. If you want to see what I'm up to next, you can find me on Instagram at barb_444, on Facebook as Barb Higgins, and at my website, 1000tinysteps.com. And while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, a weekly way to find out what's up in the life of Barb Higgins.